Hello and welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Kan, author of the number one bestseller, Sensitivity is Your Superpower: How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And if you are a highly sensitive person, someone I call a sensitive soul, we have a special gift for you. It's called the Sensitive Soul Empowerment Guide, the 3 ways of navigating your way to more peace, prosperity, and positive thinking and being. And you can get that Sensitive Soul Guide com. And we also have a beautiful light medicine community you can join, and we do free little mini healings every single month using Tulpacan Healing. And in Light Warrior Radio, I'm so happy today because one of my soul sisters is back on. Kerri Hummingbird. I'm so excited I can't talk. Kerri Hummingbird is back on the show. And I've been learning a lot about the underworld journey, and not really that versed in shamanic history or what that's about. So I thought, well, why not bring a medicine woman and an expert to the show to answer some of these questions for us? So she's going to be talking about, what is a shamanic journey? Is it safe? Is it religious? Is it not religious? What's the difference between the underworld and lower world and upper realms and all that kind of stuff? And Kerri, I met through actually this podcast. Her assistant reached out, and I, read her bio, felt her energy. I'm like, wow, I love this woman. So had her on the show. We featured her book, Inner Medicine, and became number one best-selling book. She's many number one best-selling books. And then we became Soul Sisters in a movement, Sacred Economy movement, which we absolutely love. And love to be masters in as well. So she's here with us today to talk about shamanism. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. She is, like I said, the founder of Inner Medicine Training, and it's a mystery school actually that shares potent ancient traditions from the Andes and Himalayas for owning your wisdom and living your purpose. And she is the number one international best-selling author of another book called The Second Wave: Transcending the Human Drama, and Love is Fierce: Healing the Mother Wound, which describes the most direct path to self-realization. And she's the host of the Soul Nectar Show, and I've been on that one. Yay! Kerri inspires people to lead their lives wide awake with authenticity, passion, and purpose that positively, oh, she likes peas too, impacts others. As a healer and mentor, she catalyzes mind shifts that transform life challenges into gifts of wisdom. Her newest book is the one I talked about earlier, The Inner Medicine: Becoming One with Mother Earth for the Survival of Humanity, released Earth Day 2023. And Kerri, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
It's always fun to have conversations and spend time with you. So I'm always delighted to be invited.
Yay. Awesome. That's great. Well, for some of our newer listeners that may not have met you before, tell us about your journey. Like where were you before you became a medicine woman, if you will, and what was that journey like?
We'll talk about the underworld journey. Like I pretty much was experiencing it from the time I was little, like from the time I was really one or two.
Mm.
Because my mom moved in, she left my natural father and then she married someone else she thought would be safer, better. And then he turned out worse, like frying pan into the fire, scary. And so I spent the first 5 years of my life really being afraid that my mom was going to, something really bad was going to happen to her and I wasn't going to have a mom. And I would be stuck with this really angry, mean person. And so, and I felt responsible because it's actually kind of a twisted dynamic in how he made it my fault if my mom got beaten up. So I started really early, with that kind of lower world journey, that terror, that fear, that not sure what's going to happen next. And my mom protected me. So when we left him when I was 5, and then she married again, I was like, oh gosh, who's this person? And he ended up being just a wonderful, wonderful husband, wonderful man. And he was my dad until he passed away in 2017. So, but that early start, initiates a couple of things. It initiates a kind of fleeing of the innocence. So the childhood innocence flees the body because it goes, whoops, this is scary. And it goes and hides, and it creates its own world of imagination and playmates and just kind of off in its own little space over here while whatever is here is going on. That's really scary. And so that separation of the innocence from the child is like something I experienced. And the second thing that happens is that the patterns of sort of your brain is being formed, for at that really early age. And so, the way that you expect life to show up is being programmed in your brain. So even though we met the most awesome guy when I was 5, really loving, really just a gentle mountain of a father, those patterns were still in place. And so I've really spent my life up until recently, up until the last few years, like untangling myself from those early, like volume way up on fear, always looking over my shoulder, always like feeling out, assessing, is everything going to be safe or is it going to be bad? Kind of feeling into every single situation and every single person, sort of, to test it and make sure it's going to be okay. That kind of scared little child brain. It took a long time to dismantle that. And along the way of that, the underworld journey was many bouts with suicidal ideation, many deep, dark, depressive experiences where I just didn't want to be on this planet, sort of like counterbalanced by super joy, big light, big happiness, big hope, you know, um, inspiration, and feeling like everything will work out just fine. So I've lived this like life of extremes, that I have been working to bring into a harmonic, for more of a consistent sort of life experience. And so blending the shadows, blending the light, and coming into a center, what the Buddhists call walking the middle way. And many shamanic communities, they practice walking the middle road between these two extremes, and they put their arms around all of it. And so that's been my journey. And the medicine woman part, arguably was happening the entire time, but formally, probably in 2012, so I started actually getting teachers to support me on the journey after, after experiencing the effects of my early programming and not knowing why I kept repeating these patterns when I had a healthy father and a healthy mother and I had a good family system from 5 forward, yet I still went to these dark places. Why was I doing that? So at 2012, I actually started in earnest looking for the answer of that, and found teachers that have guided me to the place I am today, where now I'm guiding others. So yeah, it's been a powerful lifetime curriculum that I chose.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. And later on, we will talk a little bit about, some of your shares, like what you're up to, and how people can work with you, later on in the show. So, our topic, today about shamanic journeying. I interestingly, um, sometimes I'll share like on a bigger forum, like, oh, I'm in this shamanic living workshop, and it's amazing, we're having all these transformations. And I had one comment one time, was I really was not expecting it. She's like, watch out, that's dangerous. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Right. And I had another friend, who's not religious but comes from a religious order of some sort, and is not actually practicing, and she's like, oh, I don't know about that. Like there was some fear related to that. So I'm not sure why that is. I mean, I've had, obviously you've guided shamanic journeying and others as well, and I've always had a really positive experience. So can you share more about like what it is exactly, and why would people sometimes be scared of it? Maybe they just don't know about it.
Yeah, well, I feel like a shamanic path is a mastery path. It's a path of connecting into your body, fully being present on the earth in your body, and otherwise called embodiment of your soul. And it's really about being connected with Mother Earth and all of our relations, and realizing that we are one with this planet, that we are all one. We are having a lifetime experience of being all one. And on the shamanic path, we're aware that there are helpful guides and spirits in the spirit world that can support us in claiming our power and reclaiming ourselves, healing, and knowing ourselves as sovereign beings. And the path of sovereignty, like I said, circling back, is a mastery path. So that means that you're going to encounter adversity, and that adversity is like the mud for the lotus blossom that is going to cause you to move through those challenges and initiations in order to claim your distinct divine voice and your divine embodiment. So, yeah. So, for newer souls, that doesn't sound appealing because of the adversity part, like not wanting to move through challenges and adversity, which is why oftentimes the religious people also condemn yoga and things like that, which are clearly beneficial. But because yoga also gets into the body, it opens up the hips, it opens up the places in the body where trauma is stored, the places in the body where ancestral trauma is stored. And then because that's part of embodiment, you've got to feel it to heal it. So to reclaim yourself, you've got to fully embody as your soul, which means you've got to open up all these nooks and crannies where trauma has been stuffed and stored away and not dealt with. And you've got to feel it. And that is very challenging. It's very confronting. It's difficult sometimes. But it calls us forth to greater love, because the more, like when we open our hips in yoga, when we bring the breath down into the hips in the yoga, we're opening up that space. We're releasing the trauma and the pain from the hips. It hurts while we're doing that, but then we're breathing love into those spaces. We're breathing love. And so we're reclaiming our vessel in love. And that is what we are ultimately, is love, like capital L, love. We are all love. So I think that people just, they get the idea that it's bad because it would open up all of this painful stuff that they then have to reconcile and feel and deal with. And they might not be at a developmental stage where they're ready to do that. Like they might still want to be kind of like the light worker on the half, just the happy part, like I only want to stay in the feel good, happy part. I don't want to know all this other stuff. And the more traumatic, sometimes when people have had a lot of traumas in their lives, they want to lock all that stuff away and not feel it, right? Like, because it's very painful, which is why your storing method is like really helpful, right? Because it helps people get in the body and start to feel some of this stuff. And shamanic paths they're like deeper. They're even deeper than that. Like it can go all the way to the roots, like way down in Mother Earth, way down in your subconscious, to bring reconciliation to all of these aspects, past lives, ancestral history, inner child healing, this current life traumas. Like there's a vast underworld that every person has. And it's kind of interesting. It's equated with the brain, right? So like they say that we only use like 8% of our brain and they don't know what we're doing with the rest of it. That's the subconscious. That's storing all of this other information so that at some point through the Akashic records or whatever, right, these methods or shamanic journey or inner child healing or all of these things, we reclaim ourselves. We're actually becoming homo luminous, which is the opportunity right now.
Yeah, I love that. Well, some would say, well, hey, isn't that time of having to dig into the muck and feel all that stuff, isn't it, with ascension, isn't that less needed now? Or would you say it's more needed now? Because some people say, well, do I really have to re-feel all my trauma?
Well, I think if you've already processed it and you've integrated it, then you're complete with that. But if you shoved it into a closet and didn't deal with it while you just explored the branches of your tree, pretty soon without roots, your tree is going to fall over. Think about it like a tree. So, tree of life metaphor. In order to have high branches, we've got to have deep roots. Right. So, in order to have light, we've got to embrace shadow. So it's like, as soon as we move up and out, we come down and in. And so it's those two motions, up and out, down and in, that helps you to get to the embodiment part. So yeah, so if all you've focused on was the branches up till now, you're gonna at some point find yourself in a roots journey. Whether it's this life or some other life, you're gonna be exploring those roots because you need to get down in the vessel, down in the body, in order to feel it, to heal it, reconcile all of these experiences and integrate that, your soul experiences, so you can be divine human.
Mm, wow, yeah, that's really well said. I'll have to make another meme of one of your quotes. I like that one. In order to go up and out, you have to go down and in, right? Oh,
Feeling pain doesn't mean suffering either. Let's just say,
that's true.
because you teach this, you teach about feeling the pain, feeling it to heal it, being present with it. It'll dissolve really, really quickly as you just make space for it, to open your heart and compassion for the human experience that you've had and that your ancestors have. And if you're tuned to the collective, you're opening to the pain of the collective and having compassion for that. And I'm one of those people that's tuned into the deep collective Scorpio moon in the 12th house. Sometimes it's really not fun.
Hmm.
Sometimes I really don't want to feel this stuff, but it's also part of my gift and service. And that's also part of this transition, right? We're moving out of, like, I've had so many people tell me, I don't need to do any more. I'm happy, manifestation's working for me. All my dreams are coming true. And I'll say, well, great. Now it's time to be in service. No, I don't need to do that. I'm happy. I have all my dreams come true and it's all about me and I've got what I need. And it's like, wait a second, because one of the major shifts that happens is at this point, a juncture, in the development, is that you switch from me, my, into us, we, and you start to allow yourself to be good, directed, guided by spirit or Mother Earth as to where you're most needed to support your brothers and sisters. Now that you sort of like arrived at some level of happiness, like it's a really good idea to be in reciprocity and give back, to others and be in service, right? Which you and I, we have our podcast, and this is one of the ways that we're in service. And definitely our sacred economy group, we're in service. So we find our places where we can be in service. And so that is part of the ascension as well. Like, you're not gonna achieve ascension without moving into service.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned this. I'm so glad you did because I was reading. It's very similar title to my book, but Anita Morjani's "Sensitive is the New Strong," and she has a chapter in there which she kind of toyed about. Should I leave it in there? Should I take it out? Should I leave it? Take it out? And basically, I'm summarizing it in one sentence, but she says, when we hear and read all these spiritual teachers and they're talking about, like similar, be in service, give, all the kind of stuff. She says, they're not talking to you. Because what happens with us sensitive souls is we're constantly in that mindset and to the point of being ridiculous. So we sacrifice ourselves in service of everybody else but ourselves. And sometimes women have this pattern as well, just in general. But the sensitive souls always like, so if they hear the message, give, they're like, okay, we give more and then we give more. And so the people that actually need the message are like, do, 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 don't hear anything, don't hear anything, right? And then the people who don't need the message as much are the ones that are constantly like doing more and doing whatever they can. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but you're sacrificing. It doesn't work when they're done that.
No,
So
you
can you
have to,
tell us more about that?
you can only give from a full cup. And you know that. It's like, because when you embody the element of water, for example, you learn that lesson that you got to be in, when you're in fullness, like whenever I'm embodying that water and I'm in fullness, I'm also allowing the water to flow where I need to go. So like I'm also listening to that water and I'm letting it flow. But if I don't have really good earth and I don't have really good boundaries to kind of direct the water, my water's just going to go all over the place, right? I'm not going to have water left because it's going to
Right.
come out of the hose and just go, like right, and make mud. So we have to be able to first have really good boundaries. We've got to have good earth, good structure, good emotional boundaries, good clarity on what's mine, what's theirs. And am I involved here? Am I not involved here? Is there some way I could contribute, or is my contribution simply sending love? So
Hmm.
what's my
Hmm.
place? And so we need to know that, especially as mothers, as women, it's so vital that we stop trying to fix everybody. And,
Yeah.
I've been on this journey the last year because you've been with me. It's been really tricky to figure out, like, what is my role with my sons? What's the maximum expression of love? And what I've come to after, I mean, this is long after I've published the book, Love is Fierce, Healing the Mother Wound. I'm still healing it. Hello, still working on it. But it's like this message is love, the highest form of love is empowerment.
Mm,
So all the things I had
mm,
been doing the whole time that were going against the grain of how you're conditioned to be a mother were actually the correct things. And I had been silently judging myself for taking actions that were not in congruence with like the collective ideas about who a mother should be, and feeling that comparison and that, that sort of like condemnation from society or from family or whatever, not my parents, not my mom, but just other elements, and feeling like judging myself and feeling like, oh my gosh, maybe I didn't do the right thing. But as
mm,
I've had a chance to really focus on it and heal it, and really drop into what is love, love is empowerment. Love is supporting each person that you care about to be empowered. And when you're a mother, like, how can you support your kids to be empowered? And that is the highest expression. So anything aligned with that is going to be correct. And it's not from like a thinking place, as you know, it's from a tapping into the eternal wise one within that has all your answers. And I want to also point out like the body, like, because we all know that we can tap into our soul, our spirit, our eternal wise one, right? Like we're all kind of realizing that, or have realized that, or do it on a regular basis. But we're also earth. So our bodies are made of earth. We're living inside Earth's auric field. We are surrounded by her, like all over the place. She's in our bodies, she's in our air, she's in our everything, our atmosphere, she's our water, she's our food, she's like everything. So she's always teaching us, right? Through the body and through the coordination of these animal allies or whatever showing up in your life, like in your synchronistic encounters, the dream state that she facilitates you to see when you're ready through shamanic journey. This is one of the things we open up, is the soft gaze rather than the hard literal gaze. We open up the soft gaze. We
mm.
take the journey and we start to realize that life is completely synchronous because Mother Earth is everywhere. So she can inspire someone like you to invite me to a conversation, and I can say, great, this is going to be awesome. What are we talking about? And then we're having this conversation that I didn't even know we were going to have. And that's all synchronistically perfect because whoever's listening needs this information right now. And this is like causing light bulbs to go off. So I'm just allowing that now as water. I allow myself to be guided where I need to go. And my strong boundaries are, this is in my lane, that is not in my lane. We have to go through
Right.
earth first.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really, really great point. It's definitely been a learning journey. I went through and after medical school, been in underserved areas, and it was always sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice my health, like those crazy hours the doctors have, and it was never about me. And in fact, it's funny because one of my um videos I did recently, it was called What's in It for Me filter. Because I kind of sort of need that sometimes because I'll just automatically I get so enthused over, empathically feeling somebody else's excitement about something. I'll say yes before I realize, wait a second. Do I have bandwidth? Do I have time? Is this good for my team? Is this always workability for my husband? And then now I have to stop and go, okay, what's in it for me? Which is so weird, right? Especially for a lot of light workers, that's the last person they think of. But like you said, coming from a full cup, we do have to take care of each other, even though society, I find, is very against that. Like, from time to time, we still get people on Facebook or whoever saying, well, you should be doing this for free. If you were a really spiritual person, you would be offering your services for free.
Yeah. So the alignment, there's just a shift in alignment. It's not being in service to other personalities, like egoic personalities, right?
Mm,
It's being in service to your soul and Mother Earth and what you're being asked.
mm.
And so it's a different alignment, right?
Yeah.
Like to be in service, you might be in service right now in ways you didn't even know, right? Like if you're listening to this, I know Dr. Karen already knows this, but some of us are in service all the time with our bodies. And so we are already in service. And so, yeah, so the service to the planet, if you're tapped in and let's say your digestive tract is kind of like supporting Earth's mulching process for the human collective called humanity, that bubble of consciousness, and you're one of it, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'll come in and be in service, and your digestive tract is just munch 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 on behalf of humanity, then your greatest gift to in service to humanity is probably taking really good care of yourself, like
Mm.
really good care of your body, really giving yourself lots of space, giving yourself lots of play and pleasure to support your body in doing what Mother Earth has asked you to do on behalf of the collective. So it might be counterintuitive to what you're thinking.
Right, right. We think about what we're doing out here in the outside world when we think
Right. And
about
it's
being in
not,
service.
because that's all codependent structures that people create amongst themselves to like try to force life to be predictable the way they want it to be and force the outcomes they want through manipulating other people and circumstances. We're not talking about that. So like that's big boundary there. Nope, not colluding,
Yeah,
Nope,
and that's not easy
no,
to
it's hard because
stand
you would let
up.
people down.
Yep, absolutely.
But like
Absolutely.
letting people down might be the best thing that they need.
Yep.
Like if somebody's coming to you and expecting you to just take care of them, and while doing absolutely nothing to take care of themselves, that's not love in the highest. That's not helping that person to be empowered. That is continuing disempowerment by doing everything for them.
Yes.
And this has been my greatest lesson. Love is not just doing it all. Love
Yeah.
is setting up the conditions for empowerment to occur. And the condition might be, where are you going to live? How are you going to provide for yourself?
Mm,
That's
right.
hard to do that
Yes.
because it looks like the opposite of love in our human conditioning. But in
Yes.
soul language, in soul frequency, in Mother Earth, Earth School, that might be what she's saying. And I've gotten very strong guidance about that over and over again to help assure me that, like, when I make those kind of choices, that's the correct choice, actually.
Mhm.
That's what is in the best and highest to support the evolution, the catalyzation of the next, like many lifetimes in some cases. Like this lifetime might be a pivotal lifetime for a soul to step into self empowerment and on a track of many better lifetimes. And if they don't make that transition in this lifetime, it could actually stall their progress or divert them to a whole different track. And
Hmm.
so sometimes, like, the act of service is to do something you personally find extremely painful.
Yes, yeah, that is so my experience for sure. I know for, this whole COVID thing and with the parents and, the different countries and things like that, there are decisions that I made was not popular, let's just say, with my family and some, their friends and that kind of thing. And they just thought I was just like, what is wrong with her? You know? And
Yeah, why
I
is she breaking all of our rules?
yeah, and I got guilted on Facebook. You're a medical doctor. How dare you say against this thing because you're gonna kill grandma or whatever it was, you know? But I was like, again, strong guidance is like, this doesn't make sense to sacrifice my health and well-being and then model for everyone to do the same thing when it doesn't work and it doesn't make any sense at all. And it continues this perpetual belief that is not true. So I have to be the one, not everybody, right? But for me, I felt I had to be the one to stand up and say, no, I'm not putting that on my face, you
Yeah, and
know?
that's that sovereignty journey we were talking about. That's the journey of the soul who's ready for sovereignty
Mm,
and sovereign leadership. That's a very specific curriculum.
mm,
And in that curriculum, you will be called to face these adversities of having to confront your own need for belonging
yeah.
and your own attachment to being loved in order to stand in the truth of what you know needs to be done and said from your vessel on behalf of everyone.
Mm,
And so, and it's extra tricky because we also, at this level of sort of development, we also understand that every soul's choice is sacred. And so we know that everybody is getting the information that they need for their curriculum, and they're getting the lessons they need, they're getting the choices they need. And where it's not up to us to choose for anyone else. But it is up to us to choose correctly for our soul, correct, right? Not for every,
mm.
there's not like one correct. Let's just
Right,
clarify
right.
that. But like, it's up to us to follow our soul's guidance. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's right or wrong in the collective, and we sort it all out and we shake it at the end and we say, well, this was actually the correct decision. And it's not like that. It's like, no, you're going to be put against other points of view so that you'll stand with your own,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
do
it's
what's right
very,
for
very
yourself.
difficult. It's so much easier just to cave in and,
To be liked.
and be
Yeah.
called, than to be called names, right? And to be gaslit and, all these different things. But yeah, so that in the stage, that I'm in personally, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing,
Yeah. And what you face, what you confront in that, back to the topic, is you confront the underworld journey. So
Mm,
when you are called and because you know your intuition and you know your insight, and every single time you check it, it says exactly the same thing. And it's a very definite thing. You have to follow it because you're on the path of sovereignty and you're on the path of soul embodiment. You have to do it. And so as a result of that, you're going to face all the stuff in your underworld, in your subconscious, that tells you, you can't do that.
who are
This
you to,
terrible,
yeah.
terrible things are going to happen. People are going to hate you. And then they do. And then, all this, like, it's like the dream world happens all the time. It happens in our reality. But we're dreaming. And it's
Mm,
happening because things are being orchestrated in our lives so that we can see it. So shamanically, we just get proactive about that. That's the difference. Is in
ah,
shamanism, we go, this is going to happen anyway. So let's just get proactive with it. Go down into the underworld, find out what the blocks are, find out what curses, contracts, cords need to be cleared in the underworld, find out what ancestral traumas need healing. Let's just go see what's related to this from my inner child, from my childhood. Let's go in, proactively deal with it. And we'll take medicine journeys, or we'll take just a shamanic rattle journey, meditative drum journey down in there to find out what's connected with what we're feeling, so we proactively clean it up. And then we don't have to have all the bad, like really extreme stuff happen on the outside, because we're dealing with it on the inside. We're proactively going after it. So we don't need Mother Earth to coordinate somebody to be really cruel in our life, in order for us to learn the lesson.
yeah, that's really well said. That's fantastic. So walk us through like the different kinds of shamanic journeys that somebody might benefit from.
Yeah, so there's three basic worlds that we can journey to shamanically. The lower world, which is the subconscious, and there's a lot of stuff happening down there, so I'll spend most of my time talking about that. And I'll just touch on that there's a middle world, which is where we're sitting right now. Like, you and I are sitting in the middle world and we're having a conversation in the middle world. That's not a place that we usually journey, because the middle world can have restless spirits that passed away, that didn't want to transition back into light. It can have a lot of stuff happening in the middle world that, unless you're more skilled, you really don't want to spend a lot of time journeying and opening yourself up to that. So you just stay in your own lane, again, good boundaries, and you just navigate as a human being in this middle world, not like seeing what all is out there. And then the upper world is like where we can go to deal with higher vibrations, higher guidance, um, upper upper levels of creation, upper levels of consciousness. We can visit with ascended masters and guides. We can see our destiny lines and choose our highest destiny. So there's a lot of things we can do in the upper world to support us in getting realigned to the highest destiny path, for example, and then getting higher guidance. So that's a really awesome. I like to bring people, to the upper world for those kinds of guidance sessions. But the lower world is so juicy because the lower world is connected to all the stuff that makes our life experience show up the way it shows up. So it's the underpinnings of why things happen in your life the way they happen. And so it's really so juicy because it's when we heal one thing in the lower world, it just like ripples out and affects like so many things in our life. It just can clear up swaths of regular life experience just by going in there and shifting one or two agreements. It can really
Mm.
change a lot. And so when we go on a lower world journey, we're getting ourselves in a trance state. So we want to get out of beta mind. Like in the middle world, we're in beta mind. You know, we're just do, go, go, go. Maybe we take a meditation or something, but we're like pretty much in beta. You know, we're like active mind. Okay. So that's like the middle world. But we want to get ourselves in theta. We want to get ourselves in alpha. We want to shift the lens. And you can actually learn to shift I'm kind of doing it right now. So you can kind of learn how to slip into the altered state of viewing things. It's sort of like a soft gaze, it's a soul gaze, and you can just kind of drop down under the surface of reality underneath where there's like this vast ocean of potential and lived experiences and just like a
Mm.
vast field of interconnectivity that's under the surface down there, and we can tap into that watery space down there and we can start navigating and pulling threads and seeing like where things lead.
Okay. Is that why I'm feeling slightly sleepy now that you're
Yeah, now you're feeling, yeah, because I took you down into this watery space down there. And so in my programs in inner medicine, we have a specific guide who's called Waskar, and he's a legendary figure from the Sacred Valley in Peru, and he's the king of the underworld. So he's the one
Mm.
who helps us navigate this watery realm to get right to the thing we need to know.
Mm.
So, for example, in a healing session, I open sacred space to get people lulled into that dreamlike state. It's just right here. Like it's literally right here, right now. We're experiencing it. It's just right there. We just have to slip out of the pragmatic mind down into these depths. And when we get down here, we can feel the interconnectedness. We can feel the tendrils of whatever it is we're healing. We can track it through the feeling sense of it, and we can notice like what it's all connected to, like what's its web of connectivity. Where did it start? We can go to its source point and we can pluck that wound out and heal it with some, whatever methods the shaman uses for the healing, but we can just pluck it right out. You can even do it yourself on journey. When I lead people, I like to lead people to a space where there's a sacred fire. And so when we track it back to its source, then I give you the opportunity to just plop it right in the fire and have it be transmuted, alchemized. And then you can fill it back up with firelight, which has the electric blue light of truth, rose colored light of compassion, and the golden light of energy. And so you just fill it back up with that basic building blocks of creation to give yourself a new potential. And then you'll notice yourself feeling relaxed, like all is well. This has just like put me on a whole new timeline. Like I just did a quantum leap, but I went down to do it. I didn't go up.
Mm.
So you see, it's like
Right.
healing from the roots. It's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
you heal something like, because time is a total illusion, like
Right.
everything is happening all at the same time, but you can travel down to the lower world and you can actually travel on the river of time back like 7 generations to where something started, pluck that wound out, fill it with light with the participation of that ancestor who by now is like, yes, please, let's heal this because I'm not in a body and I don't want to come back into one. Like, can we just clear this, please? And we go down there and we work the ancestor. Then, I mean, that healing ripples forward instantly through time. Like,
Yep.
bam, seven
Yep.
generations. And the timeline goes, zoop. So every one of those that we do lifts us exponentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And sometimes I remember one time actually one of my friends who was saying, "Hey, do you want to have an Akashic, records reading?" I didn't know too much about it. This was many years ago. And so she's doing this reading, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just sitting there. And she's like, long story short, she's like, oh, I see your ancestors. And it's like thousands and thousands of ancestors from China. And I was like, okay, I'm not that connected to China because I came over to Canada when I was really young. But she wasn't the first person to say it, which is why I was very alert and going, huh, isn't that interesting? you know? And then it felt true. It felt true. I'm gonna cry a little bit, but yeah, there were
Mm.
like all these, um, in that case, just dead like people, like ghosts that needed to healing, in China. I'm not even sure. I can't even remember now what exactly they died from. It could have been war or something like that. But it was just like, oh, that okay, I have that responsibility. Okay, we can do this. So it was just so neat, but I was not feeling like just it just was like China, really? But then once I was able to connect to it, then I realized there's all these, but when she meant thousands, my mind was going thousands of living people, but no, it was thousands of ancestors and those who died and didn't actually cross over.
But they live on inside of our ancestral DNA. So
Hmm.
they live on inside of our bodies, which gives us a really unique opportunity to be this portal
Yeah.
in this life of ancestral healing in other times before us, because it's all happening right now. And so it gives us this opportunity to release the sort of ghost of that, right? To release the pain, release the trauma. We can't really change what happened, but we can change the emotional expression of it. And we can change the sort of what they call sustos or traumas that get stuck in the ancestral DNA as like blocks that continue and perpetuate forward, and then generations and generations are experiencing the fallout of that wound, right? So we
Hmm.
can we can go back with the cooperation of these ancestors, and usually they're very willing to support because they've already been out of the body seeing the ripple effect of these traumas or these choices that they made. They're seeing it and they want to do something about it, but in order to do something about it, you have to be physical. And a lot of times
Hmm.
they don't want to come back in and have another lifetime because they get put right back in the same pattern, and it's like confusing and disorienting, especially if they're a younger soul. It just kind of
Yeah.
really
Why do we have to be
confusing.
physical to heal it? That's a question I'm sure people
Yeah.
want to know.
You've got to be, because you've got to have, just like manifestation works better the more grounded you are. Because the
Right, right.
more you're present in your body on earth, the more your roots are in the soil, the more you're connected to your body, the more that you're available for this living, breathing organism, the more that you have an address. So let's see if there was a post office and the
Oh,
post office wanted to mail you a package, but it was like, well, sort of ethereal, like kind of sort of over here. They wouldn't know where to deliver the package. But if you're like, here's my address, Main Street 123, Arkansas, blah, 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 room 3. Okay, now it knows where to put the package, right?
interesting.
So
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
where if you're more grounded, you're more able to manifest. And then the other way
Mm.
too. So you have to have branches. So if you're grounded, but your crown chakra's all clogged up and your imagination's all clogged up because you decide life is just real and that's all it is. Well, then you're equally can't manifest because manifestation requires imagination.
Mhm, mhm.
Shamanic journey also requires a certain amount of imagination and or being able to be inside your body, being able to feel. Like when I call in the ancestors, like when you called in your ancestors, I felt them all, like because you were talking about them, so they all appeared, and that's, you felt their presence, your heart opened. It was like, oh, there they are, they're always right here. That is like touching, to know that they love you and they come when you call. So when you're feeling that in your body, it's true because it causes an experience inside your body. So that's how you know it's true. And when you're able to visualize it, that's also really cool because you can use your visualization. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about, like, visualizing what you want and keep visualizing it until it happens. And he healed his home spine that way. So
Mhm.
visualizing it is good. But if you don't have that gift, that kind of Claire gift, that kind of psychic gift, then you can also feel in your body, which is another benefit of being in here snugly, because then you can really, you can
Right.
leverage that for manifestation too.
Well, I do find that a lot of highly sensitive people are primarily clairsentient, so they do feel a lot in their bodies. But for them, perceive it as almost like a curse because they feel too much. And then like, when can I like not feel the universe or all of humanity or mass consciousness or the collective whatever that's healing? Like, when do I get a break? How can I not disassociate is the right word, but when can I just have a breather so I can just be me? Like, do you have
That's
any advice for that?
yeah. And this is what really helped me with that, because I'm an extreme empath as well. I'm very psychic and empathic. And I was always picking up on stuff with other people and then thinking it was mine, and people were happy to hand it to me. So, because they're like, I don't like this thing. You're take it cool. So I obviously that caused a life of a lot of suffering and heavy emotions, right? And so
Yeah.
when I met Alberto Vialdo, and went to the Four Winds Light Body School, one of the pivotal moments I had in my realization of this was that we shared what's called the Viracocha. I so almost want to do it now. If we have a few minutes to just quickly
Sure.
do this. Okay, so we're just opening sacred space, southwest, north, and east, and earth below, sky above. I'm popping a nice octahedron around everything here for protection. Yeah, with Tatawadi inside, purification, electric blue light, rose color light, golden light. And now, in the context of that safe container, then I'm going to actually share my Wiracocha with all of you listening so you can feel it. And just notice what you feel as they bring in and over you. And then I'm going to take it off, and then notice what you feel when I take it off. And this helped me to know my boundary. So let me share that with you now. So just notice any difference. And now I'm going to remove it. Notice the difference now.
Hmm. What did you say that was?
My Viracocha. So the Viracocha is the eighth chakra. It's a sun above the head, and it's the eighth chakra, and it's like about like anywhere from full arms upstretched to like down halfway towards your
Mhm.
head. You'll kind of notice, and if you place your hands up there, you'll start to notice like some tension, and there's like a ball of light above your head.
Okay. And so
And
so you were putting one on us? Don't we have one already?
you do, but I was placing mine over you for a moment so you could
Oh,
feel my energy. And then as I
okay.
remove mine, you feel the absence of it. And in the
Okay.
absence of it is you.
That's interesting. I actually felt like there was like, before you put it on, even though I didn't really know what it was, before I was feeling lots and lots of like buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. And then when you put it on, I felt like there was a container, like there was like not a helmet, but it was like a little, like a dome, almost like a dome, like a container. And my energies were contained and not so all over the place,
Ah,
if you know what I mean. And I'm not judging all over the place as
oh no.
bad, just, and then when you removed it, I could feel this expanse just like vibrating again. So it made it quieter.
Yeah, it made it peaceful
Yeah.
for a moment.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
interesting. It was like I
So
had a
sometimes
like
people like
it
to,
looks like a colander. Like I
yeah,
had this metal colander in my cupboard.
it basically gave you peace and quiet for a moment, so you could hear yourself. Like that's I have it, it's very quiet inside of me now because I've done a lot of work on that, and part of the quiet has to do with shutting out, like only tuning in, like tuning my tuning fork into my source.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. and and if I want to tune into somebody, I can direct it. I can tune
Right.
into any person if I feel like it. Might be intrusive, but I could do that. And so then it's kind of like only keeping my tuning fork tuned to source and to myself. And part of that capability came from learning about the Viracocha from Alberto. And I teach people that in my program too. And then also receiving the bands of protection. So you might love this because the bands of protection are the elements.
Mm.
They are the elements. And so anyone can go to my website and get it from this webinar, Walking with Protection, that I have recorded up on my webpage under events. But it's like you receive the earth at your hips, like a dark skirt of earth, like nutrient rich soil around your hips. And then you receive the water element in the form of blood, because our blood is water, so you receive that around your midriff. And then you receive the sunlight around your heart and your will. And you receive the air around your throat to help you speak and protect your throat chakra. And then you receive this white light around your consciousness, around your third eye and your crown. And then they all become one band, like they're individual bands, but then they become one unified band. And they're kind of like this really sleek snakeskin outfit. Like it's like you can like pull it close to you, and then you can also expand it out into a giant sphere. And that helps you to decide, what do I let in? And I have a lot of students who are projectors in human design, and they're just constantly assaulted by information. Like it's constantly coming in and they're like, because they're projectors. They don't have like a strong boundary, but I do. I'm a manifester. Manifestors have an auric field that's very repelling unless I invite you. Like I invited you and I let you come in my auric field, then you feel like, wow, this is quiet in here, because I can choose who to let in. And when you're not that, you have a different energetic auric field, and it could be really porous if you're a projector. So a lot of times those people really appreciate having the bands of protection because it quiets it down. It's like gives them a little bit more power, a little bit more discerning, and then being in my container, they're in this sort of like manifestor protected realm of like, yeah, you can't bug us unless we choose. So it's kind of nice.
Well, and then sometimes we get the the guidance, if you will, that there's something for us to create or learn or acknowledge relative to the quote unquote symptom that is not our stuff. We're clear it's not our individuated stuff, but that for some reason the collective reality of this time, that whatever is it's echoing through, seemingly through our body's experience. And then once we've created that thing that we're creating, then it dissipates. But there can be this fine line between going, the mind going, well, that's not fair. Why do I have to create all this new stuff for everyone? Can't I just have my own life? And the other just being like, well, are you sure that's really what it is? Because maybe you just have really bad boundaries. But then when we check in and we're like, no, the boundaries okay. But for some reason, I'm still getting the message that something needs to be done and somehow I'm part of it. So,
yeah, but it's still a choice. So, and every choice is sacred. So, like if you're getting that message and you're getting that invitation to, support with, let's say, a collective project, then you still have the choice to say yes or no. Like if you're really feeling depleted and you can't do it, you just say, not right now, thanks, I need to rest. So we can say no. This is another empath thing. We can say no. No works just as well as yes. So we don't have to say yes. We can say no. And if we're not feeling up to it, we don't have to do it. And then when we're feeling up to it, we can be in service again, so it's like, it's not a constant on switch, you know?
Right. Yes. And then it's challenging sometimes to take the judgment out of all of it. So tell us about your programs and what kind of people are right for them, what are they ready for, and what can it help with.
Yeah. So I run a mystery school. And so it is aligned with Mother Earth and her wisdom. And it's a indigenous path in a way, like a lot of indigenous cultures have followed the elements and the four directions. I teach the medicine wheel. So get you acquainted with the south, the west, the north, and the east, the ancestors, the lineage. People who we work with are Caro from the Andes Mountains in Peru, and also the Huixatica. We have a Huixatica guide that is from Mexico, and so we dive deep into embodying the elements and to also working with the primary animal archetypes of serpent, jaguar, hummingbird, and eagle condor.
Hmm.
And we have a host of other guides, like Huascar down in the lower world. And we have a guide, Pachacuti, up in the upper world. And so we work with Quetzalcoatl in the middle world, which is a Mayan, feathered serpent. So
Okay, sounded really familiar, but
kind of like the dragon in a way. Yeah.
okay.
So we work with these and we embody these archetypal energies through the transmissions of the Moonai Ki, energetic seeds of them that you grow inside your physical chakra, your energetic chakra system in your physical body. And so it helps you to spiritually awaken inside your body. And it leads you on that underworld journey, that, that dark night of the soul, all of that stuff, but without, like, doesn't need to be so dramatic. Like, it can be more proactive, and
I
it can
like that.
be,
Yeah.
more gentle, loving, and kind. And it has a little coyote in it, so it's a little mischievous, so it's gonna surprise you. It's gonna give you an adventure. It's gonna come around the corner and peek and go, hi, and so you're going to have these like moments of mystical connection, these things you didn't anticipate happening. You could have some disruption, to things that really need to move along that you're staying connected with too long. You're like, it's time to move on and you won't. So it can help you disrupt out of that pattern.
Mm.
And yeah, so it's really powerful. We have like a great time together and receive all kinds of transmissions and realizations, and the more people actively engage in it, the better it gets. And so right now, we're this year in 2024, we're working with owl. So in addition to all of our animals, we have a yearly animal guide. This year it was owl, and the
Wow.
owl is really about death and rebirth. And she's a powerful mistress of the dark, and she's
Yes.
just so loving and kind and gentle and sweet, and also will just like be so sweet with you while she sweeps away what doesn't serve you anymore.
Right. Because she feels really, really powerful with those, you know?
She's got big eyes. You can see everything in the dark, and
Mhm.
she can swivel her head, but Al is really powerful. And yeah, so we're all experiencing that this year, and that's been amazing as a community.
Okay. And
All
where
of
can
these
people
last
find you?
at kerrihummingbird.com, KERRI hummingbird.com, and all the stuff's up there. And you can get a free meditation pack if you put inner medicine at the end of, so kerrihummingbird.com/inner medicine. And there's like a free meditation pack. And there's one of those like, what's mine, what's theirs meditation. So you can like,
Nice.
because that we all need that. Like,
Yeah.
it helps you visualize what's mine and what's theirs. Like, come on. That's like half of the empath's life. It's like,
That's right. Right. And I have one more question for you before we end for today, which has been amazing. Is some of the sensitive souls, especially some of the star seeds that were light beings and other realities, and then come into this dense human form. The one thing they do struggle with sometimes is swelling. So I did for a while, but I have multiple souls, and that was only one soul, so I didn't have it as quote unquote much as other people, but sometimes they'll just wake up swollen and there was nothing they did wrong. You know what I mean? They weren't eating the wrong foods or full of sugar or whatever. And is that a thing? Is that like something we experience through this journey that we're going through in ascension or getting deeper?
yeah, I think that it's kind of like if you went to a gym and you'd never lifted a weight before in your life, and you pick up the 50-pound weight as your first weight, ow, like you can't barely lift that thing. And so, because if you're really high vibrational, let's say you're like 12th dimensional or 20th dimensional, you're like really, really up there, you're bringing your frequency to earth at this time to support the uplifting of the planet, then you probably don't have like deep third dimensional roots. So
Ah,
that's one of the reasons why we practice with the the indigenous lineages that have been on the planet, strengthening this earth medicine for
mm,
generations, for thousands of years. Like the Karo people are one of those people. The Himalayas, we all know, are those people like that have built these deep lineages.
mm.
Then their ancestors support us 24/7. So being a part of a deep lineage like that is extremely supportive for people who are coming from really high dimensions, because you need kind of get an earth suit. You've got to like get your earth suit
Exactly.
strong so
Yeah,
that you can get all the way inside of it and be comfortable, you know? And so
that's well said. Yes.
yeah, so it helps you get your earth suit, and it also helps you learn like how stones, crystals, and rocks can help you, for example, to hold energy so that you don't have to hold it. That's why we have a mesa. We have a medicine bundle that has the kuyas that holds the frequencies of your gene keys chart so that you don't have to hold that all by yourself. You have like stone
Mm.
allies that can help you. So it's called animism, and
Oh,
animism
yeah.
is something really helpful for us that don't have like it all embodied. It supports us to get embodied. So we have
Mm.
like the stones, the plants, the trees, all these things can help us get embodied. So
Oh,
yeah. And then
okay.
once on top of that, for a couple people, I've done like little healing sessions where I just work with my lineage, my deep earth lineage, as well as Pachamama, Mother Earth, and these higher frequency beings to support the earth suit to be recalibrated to be more comfortable for the soul, for their like normal climate, so how that works, I have no clue, because I'm just simply in the hollow bone, just sort of facilitating a space where that can all happen. But I don't know like specifically how it's happening. I just know that the guides are making that so, and
Yeah,
working with
yeah,
Pachamama, I'm just holding the space of that.
yeah.
But it seems to help people, and they report afterwards they feel more comfortable in their bodies. But I don't, like I said, I have no idea how that actually is happening except opening the space.
Yeah, that's really cool. I remember the first time I became water in our, movement. I was traveling, so sometimes I have some constipation issues when I'm traveling. And but when I was muscle testing, I literally for I think 3 to 5 days straight, I did not answer to my name in muscle testing. I answered to water. So I am water. My name is water. And I was like, well, that's interesting, right? And unfortunately, fortunately, it kind of went like this. It didn't help that I was probably later on, knowing what I know now, I probably needed a heck of a lot more salt, because I was drinking a lot of water, but I didn't have enough salt. So I needed more salt. And then I probably would have pooped and probably been a lot more comfortable. But I literally swelled. And every day for 5 days, I think I was not Karen Kanji. I was water. And I was like, oh, I'm having this really, and I was reading the water code book, right? So I'm having this really interesting experience as literally water. I was like, wow. Okay. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah,
Crazy
maybe
stuff.
more earth. Some stone allies and stuff. That's why I do the altars, because they help hold the energy.
Yeah, and I wonder whether that's why my body tends to do well with salt, because it is kind of earthy, right?
Salt is earthy, it's mineral.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it can help support us to be more grounded, more present, more rooted. And then, if we have good grounding and good rooting, then the water can flow more easily or be held or contained or directed, rather than like I said, like seeping out and becoming mud. It's like this has no boundaries, right?
Yeah, mine was like this structured water was just like holding this light energy, and but it was like I couldn't process the light fast enough. So it was just like, okay, there's more information coming in really, really fast, right? And it was like
Exactly. Yeah, your body was like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. It's like, I can't do it that fast. Slow down. Yeah.
exactly,
hmm
exactly. Yeah,
Earth
that's
moves slower. Earth moves slower than
mm,
water. and it moves the slowest actually. Earth moves the slowest. If you just think of it that way, Earth moves the slowest, water moves probably the next slowest, and fire moves fast, really fast. And air is kind of somewhere in between there,
Mhm. Okay.
But
Yeah.
like Earth is definitely the slowest. I mean, it's obvious, it's take a long time for something to change with just dirt and earth and rocks and stuff like that.
Right. Well, I think there's so many sensitive souls that have always, even as children, been drawn to gems and stones and all that kind of stuff. And then, there's school and there's all this like not conditioning, but like, oh, well, that's nice, you know?
Yeah, but no, but that's like it is working. That's why we just have to trust ourselves, right? Like we have
Hmm.
to learn to trust the guidance that we're getting and run the experiment. Just
Yes.
run the
I like that.
experiment, see if it helps to have a bunch of stones around you and just that's it. I'm sleeping with like selenite by my feet right now just to help me process and clear stuff as I sleep, right? So, yeah, I think stone friends, I like them.
Yeah, it's funny because like I've always maybe I've elevated them to a probably I need to learn this lesson, like elevated others, whether it be ET friends or stones or whatever, to like they're better than me. You know what I mean? Like they're higher than me. And I'm asking for them help. But so when I get the opposite happening, they're asking me for help or I'm doing a healing for them. It's just kind of weird. Like, this is weird. No one ever told me that. Okay. Like it's just kind of weird, but it's like this two-way street, like this
Yeah.
conversation, this community, this relationship that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it can be very reciprocal.
Yeah, very cool. So KerriHummingbird.com, Kerri, and then hummingbird.com is where you can find Kerri. She has some amazing programs coming up. It is definitely an amazing thing to be mentored by Kerri and her inner medicine program, as well as some of the other programs that she has. So Kerri, thank you so much for sharing with us, the shamanic journey, what it's like, all this great conversation about being embodied. I totally resonate with the message today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And thanks everyone for listening into Light Warrior Radio. Lots of love, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now, everyone. We'll put all the links below this show.